David Nour very, very much. He's got an impressive bio. The thing that I love the most is the term growth strategist. He's the CEO of a very successful Nour Group. He's a best-selling author. His latest book, titled Return on Impact, Leadership Strategies for an Age of Connected Relationships, addresses many of the challenges that our industry is facing of late. I'm going to digress just for a bit from an impressive bio to let you know that more important than that bio to us in some fairly critical ways for the day is that he's an avid motorcycle enthusiast. I'll let him explain more about that, and maybe we have to kind of put a hand up and like get him back on track. His stories are amazing, but he's got a tough role because he's come to speak to his toy store. So let's try to keep him on pace, and I'm sure we will. I've known David for 4 years. His work is interesting because to the staff of the association, this presentation is all about you. And to the membership, this presentation, this discussion, the workshop this afternoon is all about you. You can hold staff accountable to some of this, and I'll acknowledge right now, there's a number of ways we fail at being connected. So we're supposed to pay attention and get better for the day. And we need you to do it because you're that link and to our consumers. So when I say David has a vested interest, I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, this guy's in a boat tech school to learn how to work on his own bike. So you might have to counsel him on that. We're going to have books from David coming in the next week or so. And when we get those, we'll coordinate getting those to most of you. And more information to follow from Cam Arnold on that. So whether you are a manufacturer, aftermarket supplier, distributor, it's time to think of new ways to best educate, engage, and connect and empower the motorcycling community. David's initial presentation, after that, we're gonna break for lunch. Coming back, we'll hear from Board Chairman Larry Little and Association EVP Paul Vetrano, who's also our General Counsel. We always look forward to hearing from him. But for now, fasten your seatbelts. This may be a very interactive session. And David Nour, let's kick it off. Have fun.
What got you here won't get you there. That's the title of one of my favorite books by a guy named Marshall Goldsmith, in which he builds with empirical evidence that which has made you successful to date may or may not be what moves your company, and certainly this industry through its evolution. So in the time that we have together, I want to share with you some best practices in how to engage very different audiences. And at some point, we have to stop competing for the same sliver of the pie and look at how to expand the size of the pie. Because I don't know of a company that can cut its way to growth. I thought I'd start by telling about my background. I'm originally from Iran. I came in 1981 with a suitcase, $100, didn't know anybody, and didn't speak a word of English. Came to go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta in electrical engineering, I think because my parents wanted me to. But anytime I put this up, it's critical for me to reiterate. I don't know any of these guys. I have never driven a cab in DC. And I'm pretty much willing to bet you I don't know Ahmed that you went to school with, all right? These are common questions that come up, right? I told someone at a reception I was from Iran. They said, how fascinating. I love Indian food. What do you say to that, right? Me too, right? The other question is, well, you're from Iran, so you must be an Arab. I'm like, no, not really. So I thought I'd let a good friend, a local guy, Maz Jabrani, tell us a little difference between Iranians and Arabs. So watch this a second.
Yeah, I'm the Iranian. It's funny because I tell them, my American friends, I go, yeah, I'm Iranian. They go, oh, so you're Arab. And I'm like, no, we're actually different. We're not Arab. But, I mean, we're similar. We're all getting shot at. That's one thing. But, but Iranians are actually, ethnically, we're actually, we're Aryan. We're white. We're white. So stop shooting. That's what I'm trying to... And then my American friends go, well, how can we tell you apart? How can? And I go, well, it's in the accent. It's in the accent. Iranians, when Iranians speak, they talk a lot slower. Iranians talk like this. Iranians talk like this. We talk very slow, like, you know, maybe we just shot some heroin. We are falling asleep. How are you? How are you? I am Iranian. How are you? How are you? It's Iranian. Okie dokie. It's Iranian. Take it easy. Don't worry about it. I'm Iranian. And Arab talk a lot faster. Arab talk faster. Arab talk a lot faster. Arab talk like they just some cocaine. They're talking. How are you? How are you? How are you, habibi? Ahlan masahlan. Ahlan masahlan. How are you? Ahlan masahlan. Iranian is slow. Iranian, we like, you know, we Iranian don't even say they're Iranian. Iranians say they're Persian. Iranian, we say we are Persian. You know, it sounds nicer and friendlier. We even smile. When we say we're Persian, we smile. I am Persian. I am Persian. I am not dangerous. I am Persian. I am Persian, like the cat. Meow. I am the cat. Meow. I am Persian, like the rug. Hello. Rug, colorful, hand-woven. Arab faster, Arab a lot faster. And it's funny too because Arab, like my friends like Ahmed, these guys, like when they speak perfect English, no accent, but when they say the word Arab, they get very guttural, very, you know, they're very proud to be Arab. And it's weird, it's very violent. Like I was like, hey dude, where are you from again? He's like, me? What am I? Me? I'm Arab. I was like, what the hell? Like, calm down. I'm Arab, all right. I am Persian, meow.
Right, there you go. So if I break into I'm Persian, meow, you know where that comes from, right? If you remember your history, the Persian Empire was once vast, reaching from the shores of the Mediterranean to the steppes of China. We're going through a little remodeling at the moment. We're more like a duplex, right? Tehran is the capital. I was born in a city called Hamadan. True story, came here to go to school. I know you're looking at that picture and you're thinking, say no to drugs. Good advice, right? If you have teenagers, if you work with teenagers. I live in Atlanta. And if you live in Atlanta, you have to run the Peachtree Road Race at least once. It took me 3 days to run a 10K, y'all. We have 52 streets with the word Peachtree on it. Not a single peach tree anywhere to be found, right? It's always fun for the tourists. So the map guy is going to do, Judson's going to do well. I've spent most of my career in sales, marketing, and business development. One of the first jobs was comical. It was at Computerland. You remember the retail PC store? Selling 286s. You remember those things? Right? Tim's looking into i5. I'm convinced that those devices now does a lot more than those did back then. And it was comical because I had to put people on hold and flip through a Persian English dictionary just to figure out what they said. And I learned English from Apple, IBM, and compact brochures. But I also sold about $35 million in a couple years. And I quickly figured out that I wasn't in the speeds and feeds business. I was in the people business. You know what happens when I walk into a dealer? They start talking to me about all this stuff that goes right over my head. Right? Less of that individual connection, more about, let me just pretend you're another gearhead and you've been riding for the last 20 years. Right? We'll come back and talk more about that in a second. Then I went the consulting route. I was with Coopers before PricewaterhouseCoopers. And then I spent president of a company, and then I spent 6 years at a private equity firm. And in those 6 years, we bought and sold 110 different companies. And I saw some incredibly functional teams take amazingly simple ideas to incredible heights. And I've seen some dysfunctional teams take amazingly brilliant ideas off cliffs. So we'll talk about your relationships in the organization and in the industry as well. No question on who their dad is, huh? My wife is from upstate New York, German descent, 5'8", blonde hair, hazel eyes, and the kids look nothing like her. So people keep asking her, what did you contribute? She says, 9 months of rent. And if that's the official subdued kind of family photograph, here's an unofficial one. And for those of you with little kids or maybe grandkids, I just have one question. How do you get watermelon in your sleeves? It is nonstop chasing this child. But I tell you my story because I genuinely believe every one of us has a story. And unfortunately, with technically competent or technically led industries, one of the fundamental challenges that gets lost are individual stories. Now, you're absolutely in an industry that exudes individualism. And when two bikers get together, it's like they've been best friends for years. But the insular view that keeps a lot of people that I think could be potential new entrants to the market out. It's like my wife is American, doesn't speak a whole lot of Farsi. Whenever we hang out with other Persians, right, they all immediately jump into speaking Farsi, and she feels alienated. So we now hang out with more executives or friends who have likewise an American spouse, not to let them feel like they're redheaded stepchildren. So, by the way, how many people saw this at the bottom of my first couple slides? By show of hands, how many people know what these are? Okay, about 20% of the room. That's great. So we're going to talk today about the impact, the business impact of social and mobile, right? So this is my Twitter handle, if you're active on Twitter. And then this is an example of what's a hashtag. Think of hashtags as buckets. So I'm a big believer of events are a means to an end, right? So you're here for primarily content and community. That's the two big reasons people gather. You don't want this to be a one-day wonder. So hashtags are a great way to remember what we talked about, but also carry the conversation on long after. So I just started using MIC, then Communication Symposium 12, right? So if you want to share any of these insights with your community or capture them for the future, this is the hashtag that you'll see throughout. So do you think Polaroid saw the change coming? How about these guys? It wasn't that they didn't see the change coming. They saw the light, very small light, and the light kept getting bigger. What they didn't realize, they were standing on train tracks. How many people do you know who are sitting on the next Kodak? How many news stories do we have to read about seemingly competent leaders who can't not just see the trends, we can all see the trends, but they can't act on it? By show of hands, how many in the room have Blackberries on them right now? Maybe 10. I asked that same question a year ago, it was 50. 2 years ago, it was 100. But if you don't start understanding consumer behavior, consumer dynamics, and make no mistake about it, consumers are the users of your products and services. I understand, and we're going to talk about dealers, your go-to-market is your path to market. Online, maybe your path to market. But how well do you understand individual consumers? So you have to innovate. Okay, let me give you a motorcycle example. There's some interesting characters in this industry, right? So, and I'm grateful to Larry and Eric and Bob and Sarah. I talked to a handful of your colleagues before I came, and they were kind enough to share some real insights. So this is, I believe, brand new data that Eric was kind enough to share, and it's the dealer survey. And as I read more through about this, as I read through this, let me just make sure I get my head on, right? So the dealers that I've walked into, about half a dozen to a dozen of them, are carrying now a whole lot of brands. And by the way, the couple that I walked into, they were so tightly packed, you can't walk through there, much less let me get on one or check one out. And this is literally 10 minutes from me. Is that really a showroom, or is that a storeroom, right? And by the way, when I see this, the only thing I'm thinking is, I'd like to take one of those off your hands, right, at a really deep discount. And so most of them, one location, right, a whole lot, over 50%, over 60%, are doing less than 5 million in revenue. In essence, we've taken the garage and put a cash register up front. You've got traffic somewhat better, worse, or about the same, at least half. You have significantly worse or about the same buying interest in the last 3 months. We're going to hug in a little while, right? Stay with me. We have profit margins somewhat worse, about the same. You have what extent your business outlook changed compared to 6 months ago, somewhat worse, about the same. It's really small. How about your projections of your business in the next 12 months? The biggest one says flat. And unless you tell me otherwise, this is an industry. These are a lot of businesses that are ripe for an infusion of innovation. And make no mistake about it, let's not fancy it up. Innovation is about growth. You want to do things a little bit better? That's incrementalism. You want to start thinking and doing things differently? That's real innovation. I told you I'm going to give you names of some really good books. When I started, I talked about Marshall Goldsmith, and the title of his book is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. This one is called Business Model Generation, in which the authors have come up with fundamentally 9 drivers of any business model. And again, outsider, right? Let me just run a couple by you. So some of the growth challenges. Your dealers are go-to-market, your path to market. The challenge is, and I'm being respectful, they don't have a whole lot of business acumen. They don't have a whole lot of business acumen. So unless you tell me otherwise, that's a real weak link in the market because that's your front line of where business happens. By the way, I'll tell you my story and my evolution, and it's entirely Tim's fault. Of how I started writing a year ago, right? I go into a dealer because I have a bike and don't laugh, in my garage, it fell over, right? So I broke the mirror. And I go to a dealer and I pay full price retail for the mirror, and I've never put on a mirror. So I go to the service department. I say, do I need to schedule a time with you, or can I just bring it by and have you get your help and put in the mirror? Mirror? Dude! I could run that business much better than they do. And when you make me feel belittled, not only am I not going to buy anything from you, and this is probably very wrong ethically, but I've not been in that same dealer and I've tried on all kinds of different products, then I go and buy it online. Now, that doesn't help that local dealer. But if you're going to be a jerk to me when I ask for your help, that doesn't induce me to come and do business with you. This is what I'm talking about, that they don't have the business acumen to understand that customer experience this day and age means everything. I talked to Bob. Bob was kind enough to share a lot of insights. But one of the challenges, if you're a manufacturer, or even Eric and company in the aftermarkets business, you have no relationship with subsequent buyers. I go and buy a brand new bike in a dealer, you know who I am, and I register, and dealer does, but you don't know the second, the third, or fourth buyer. And everybody says, hey, the used market is really strong. Great. How are you benefiting from it? How are you building and nurturing relationships with those buyers? Because guess what? I'm not just buying a motorcycle, and you know this. I'm buying, I've calculated this, about 40% of cost of that motorcycle in aftermarket stuff. I own now several one-piece suits, and I'm buying jackets, and I have several helmets, and right? I coach a lot of my clients. You want to stop feeling like a commodity? Stop acting like one. Yet I go into those dealers where you're represented, and guess what? It's a transaction, and it's being treated like a commodity versus a lifestyle buy. So just for the kick, and I know they may not be here, and the intent isn't to pick on them, but I went to the Harley website, and I ordered a brochure, right? And they sent me the brochure, and I'll talk about some of the interesting things they're doing, which most of it you know. But we're in Greenville, South Carolina for my daughters. You saw the picture of them. They both play competitive traveling soccer teams. And I see this gorgeous building on the side of the highway, right? Big Harley sign. I'm like, honey, let me just stop by for a minute, right? I just want to walk in and just real quickly, and we'll move on to the fields. Hour and a half later. Has that ever happened to you? Hour and a half later, the guy sees, very friendly guy, right? Not the snake oil sales push. Listen, I've sold for a living, right? Not the snake oil pushy thing. Very friendly guy, sees the wife, sees the kids in an SUV, right? I'm screaming, come talk to me. He comes and gets, like, no, don't sit there. It's a beautiful day. Come join. They get the kids in this little area where they've got golf cart-looking things that look like bikes. They get the wife to what looked like a coffee shop bar area for her to sit and talk about. And by the way, there's a lady who talks about garage days. By the way, what do you ride now? And are you getting into this? And have you seen our V-Rods? Hour and a half later. What they sold me on was the lifestyle. What they sold me on is come and be a part of this community. Who wouldn't love to have one of these? Conversely, I got to one of those dealers earlier that I showed you, right? And again, this isn't a judgment thing, but the tattoos and the pierced parts, I can't relate to that. That's not a conversation I can have. And I don't want to talk about displacement and the shocks. It goes over my head. So are you selling a commodity? Or are you engaging people in that lifestyle of a conversation? I know you have to compete. I've competed most of my life. But anytime in any industry I hear us and them or those guys versus we, you know what light bulb goes off? It's not clicking on all cylinders. No pun intended. At some point, you have to understand co-opetition, that you may compete head on as brands, but given a common mission, common enemy, common vision, you have to find ways to work together. So, at the risk of never being invited back, MSF. I've been to several of the courses. MSF is underfunded. Why is MSF on one campus and why can't we take MSF to other places? Randy and Amy in Atlanta do an amazing job, but there's no drip or nurturing campaign with MSF, right? To engage me and bring me back. Before that class ends, it's a great opportunity to engage me in the next one. And I heard some frightening statistics of how few people actually go through MSF before they get their license. And it was an incredible experience. And I'm still bugging Randy of, I want an MSF sticker to put on my helmet. One of your colleagues that I spoke to in my due diligence process actually said this. We don't know how to engage end consumers. Well, guess what? None of us are born with it. So I'm delighted you're here, but we've got to get a lot smarter. You've got to get a lot smarter. And we'll talk about this in a second, of how to engage, how to learn from end consumers who are the recipients of your value add. So my question of you is, what values perceived, what values received, what values applied, and what impact does that value bring? Again, I'll tell you my writing story in a second, but I already wiped out, or as you guys call it, I got off. Low side. Right? I'm getting into lingo, right? I'm getting on, right? So my helmet saved my life because I hit my head and I bounced off guardrails. So now all my buddies are calling me guardrail. That's just wrong. I'm like, ghostwriter? No, they're like guardrail, right? My jacket that Tim and company were kind enough to send me saved me from a whole lot of rashes. So I don't ride without the gear. You saw the beautiful kids that have a vested interest in protecting. That's all part about that consumer behavior. Right? Several of these dealers have badly outdated business models and revenue models. They don't understand online. Online is still seen as evil. They don't know how to engage online and how to build relationships online. And by the way, I walk into that dealer, I walk into, and don't misconstrue my comments, online is one-dimensional, right? Because I can't really engage you. Phone conversations are two-dimensional because of tonality. In person is three-dimensional. Nothing will ever replace that interpersonal interaction. So how do you build a relationship with somebody you can't see or touch or interact with? That's something we have to learn. And a lot of manufacturers, a lot of people in this business just push with catalogs and shove with ads and all this push. I'm going to show you statistics that says 75% of your market doesn't believe your advertising and marketing. You know who they do believe? Other riders and forums and discussion groups and the buddies at the dealer on Saturdays or the shop and the class that I go to. So what are you doing to create relationship marketing? What are you doing to create advocacy marketing? And those are just a handful that I just observed from outside looking in. So, and by the way, we're going to talk about this little to no segmentation and focus on truly market expansion, not just how do we keep pounding the kind of same group, right? So what I want to talk about is this age of what I call connected relationships. I want to show you and really talk about return on impact as opportunity to think and lead differently. You've got a great speaker later this afternoon who's going to talk about really social media and the tactical doing. I'll touch up on some of that, but I don't want anything from you. what I want for you is start thinking differently about this business and start thinking about, what fuels a new enthusiast and new market coming in. Again, not just the same market segment. And then I've talked to Tim about this. The industry's got to get smart. And SMART actually stands for something that we'll go through together. So let's take them one at a time. Years ago, I wrote my first book called Relationship Economics. And in it, I think I built a compelling case that in a very bizarre way, the Kevin Bacon 6 degree of separation works. Except in business, you're typically 3 degrees away, right? So if I want to reach John Finnegan, who happens to be CEO of Chubb Insurance, I'm up here. I know Raymond King, who's CEO of Atlanta Zoo, who knows Karen, who's on John's board. I had a chance to speak at an event with Jim Collins of the Good to Great fame. And what I love is Jim's approach on, whenever we're faced with a challenge or opportunity, we often think about what should we do and how should we do it. We seldom ask the who questions. Who do you need? Who do you know? And how do we start connecting the dots between the relationships you already have and the ones you need to accelerate your ability to get things done? So for this most recent book, I started looking at the impact, the disruptive impact of technology. I went back 4 decades and looked at the Fortune 100. In the early 70s to early 80s, 15 of the Fortune 100 swapped places, right? Here comes the PC, right? When I used to sell 286s, 29 of the Fortune 100 swapped places. Here comes the web. Here comes, you remember we used to call it e-commerce? Now it's just commerce. 62 of the Fortune 100 companies swap places. Think about it. Google wasn't around. Yahoo wasn't there. Amazon wasn't there. eBay wasn't there. Certainly Twitter wasn't there. And the disruptive nature of social, and I believe even mobile, we'll touch up on that in a second, is disruptive in its nature. So as we talk about, right, here comes social, another 29. As we talk about ideas like semantic web and social marketing, by show of hands, how many are on Pinterest? Pinterest drives more click-through commerce than Facebook does with fraction of the user base. Why? We're a visual society. My motorcycle board on Pinterest is my biggest board. And I have a lot of great dialogue, and I repin all kinds of cool models that I don't know anything about, but I click through and I go to the website, often blogs and forums, where that model is being talked about. By the way, did you know 95% of end consumer comments on Facebook walls are not answered by the brands? What an amazing opportunity. Did you know Twitter serves more searches than Bing and Yahoo combined? It's about 32 million a day. I wonder how many of those are about your brand or about things that you could leverage to build relationships with. I just can't imagine, and it'd be exciting to see how many companies are going to leverage these technologies to outpace their competitive peers. And if you're a small, medium-sized business in this room, this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to level the playing fields and start engaging not just the traditional brick-and-mortar guys, but a very different end recipient of your value add. So the age of connected relationships, 100 million tweets a day. Does anybody in this room really believe there's lack of information sharing? It's how do I filter that? How do I make use of it? How do I leverage it? How do I learn from it? 75% of the market, as I said earlier, does not believe your marketing or advertising. This is a really bad habit I learned years ago. Every magazine I get, one of the first things I do? I rip out all the ads. Makes the magazine thinner, easier to travel with, and it gets me to the core of what I'm after. And by the way, a study from IBM showed $93 billion in missed revenue opportunities because what I was looking for and when I was looking for you, you weren't there. Missed alignment of value reception and value delivery. So disruptive forces have a ripple effect, right? Individuals are more connected than ever. When I go into that dealer, I've done my homework and I go with my iPad and I've got a whole lot of tabs of forums that are talking about that product or their experience with it. And in many ways, that sales rep is against a very forceful enemy, which is this iPad. and all the information that I have real-time access to. So I'm a lot more educated. I'm a lot more connected than I've ever been as a consumer. What that forces organizations to do is evolve their business model and start thinking differently about how to engage that individual. And we're seeing a ripple effect in industries where industries have to evolve and industries have to start thinking about their value chain. If you don't hear anything else from me today, you need to hear this. Value creation comes from value chain disruption. You don't disrupt your value chain, somebody else will. Let me say it again. Value creation comes from value chain disruption. If you don't disrupt your value chain, someone else will. So we've researched 400 different social networking sites in 22 different categories. If you're curious, this is actually a guy named Brian Solis, S-O-L-I-S, started this. It's called The Conversation. Just Google Brian Solis Conversation. You'll find this website where you can actually click on these logos and see what they do. The logos aren't really that important. What's important is Dell drove $3 billion in revenue through their Twitter account last year. What's important is Comcast is solving customer service issues with Twitter at pennies on the dollar versus $1 when you call in or when you try to engage them online. So what does social mean to you? This is the interactive part of today. What does social mean to you? Shout out to me. What does social mean to you? Anybody? Communication. What else? Personal. Relationship. Interaction. Revenue. Community. These are all great. But there's a lot of misnomers because we use terms interchangeably, right? So let me show you. I have a presence on Twitter. I have a fairly robust LinkedIn profile. I use Facebook, right, for professional reasons. I've got a whole bunch of videos on YouTube and video channels. And I put presentations on slideshare.net, which is the YouTube of presentations, right? But I'm also on Quora. And Quora is a fairly intelligent kind of exchange. It's a great place for that dialogue. I'm on Chime In, found by founders, a couple founders from Twitter. And I'm very active on Pinterest. And as I said, my motorcycle board, 280 some odd pins versus even my own board with 5 pins. And if you don't know what Pinterest is it's a visual social network. You go there and pin images, and you can attach them, and it's linked to articles. And if you get a chance, just check it out. But we're a visual society, and it creates that sense of peer level believability. Recently, with a colleague, we hosted a Google Plus Hangout. If you haven't seen this, how many of you use Skype? Or have used Skype? Okay, so 9 of us in real time are in a Google Plus Hangout with another 430 watching YouTube live. Did I mention to you this is free? And it's recorded and it's now part of our channel. So when you think about dealer education, when you think about dealer empowerment, when you think about, and by the way, there's never a good time for training, right? When you think about drip or nurture campaigns, there are a lot of great technologies out there that I think you can leverage. So in many ways, social networking is about having a presence. You have an individual or a brand presence online. When South by Southwest, and by the way, if you haven't been, I would highly recommend it. South by Southwest is an annual conference. It typically happens in March in the Austin area, and it's just a gathering of just really interesting people, right? When South by Southwest picks its content based on input from the community, input from audiences, and every topic has got great dialogue and great discussion around a pivotal point. When Harvard Business Review, when you go there and you read an article on their blog and in real time, it updates other articles it would recommend, which is very different for you than it is for me. It takes content to a whole different level because it adds context. And if content is the king, context is the emperor. When forums like this have some great dialogue, and especially, listen, I'm as newbie as it gets. I started writing a year ago. has some great conversations and great dialogue, and I'm thinking about buying a Diavol or a Monster, and what do you think, and what's been your experience? It's peer level believability. It's peer level. It may not even be credibility, but it's believability. Social media are a whole lot of platforms. These are platforms for dialogue. These are opportunities for you to listen. These are opportunities for you to engage and influence their thinking and their call to action. When organizations like Charity Water take a simple idea like water, and they use GPS, and they use YouTube videos, and they take philanthropic causes to a whole different level, and they get a handsome, charismatic CEO to record this video, I want you to watch, and then let's talk about what it means.
Five years ago, we learned that 1 billion people in the world live without something they needed. Something basic. Something we took for granted. Water. Clean water. And while the problem seemed so big, we believed together we could solve it. We believed we would solve it. So we started Charity Water. And while women walked hours every day in the hot sun to muddy holes in the ground, while children shared dirty water with cows and wild animals, we asked for your help, and you responded. We promised to be a different kind of charity, a new kind of charity. We'd always use 100% of your money for water projects, finding other ways to pay for staff and our office. And we'd prove each project using photos and GPS so you could see the clean water you made possible for others. You did incredible things to raise money. You biked, you ran, you walked across America, you skated and surfed, you sang and you danced, you sold lemonade and recycled. You gave up thousands of birthdays and asked for donations instead of gifts. We sent your money around the world and people started working. Drilling rigs rolled into villages and drillers found clean water underground. Women walked less and got hours of wasted time back each day. They spent more time with their children, and some started small businesses. Kids stopped drinking water that made them sick and spent more time in school. Everyone was healthier, happier. Water changed everything. In only 5 years, you took a simple story and did more than we ever thought possible. You helped us bring clean water to 2 million people in 19 countries. So, what's next? This September, we're going to shift our focus and get the equipment we need to help more people. And what we need now is more drilling rigs. We'll start in Ethiopia, where our local partner is led by a remarkable man. And he's been leading drilling teams to find clean water underground, and he's become a national hero. His organization has 30 years of experience, and we've worked together to bring water coverage in the north to almost 50%. But we're not going fast enough. Ateklawani has only 3 drilling rigs, and all of them are operating at full capacity. He asked for our help finding more rigs, and we said yes. We traveled to Italy where the rigs are manufactured and met the people who make them. We learned exactly what equipment is needed in northern Ethiopia and what it will cost. The Froste 250 drilling rig, $700,000. A compressor and heavy truck, $200,000. Support trucks, transport, and insurance, $100,000. Pipes, tools, drilling bits, and spare parts, $200,000. It all adds up to $1.2 million. So this September, for our 5th birthday, join us and fundraise for a rig. Give up your birthday, run a marathon, start a lemonade stand, or just ask your friends to donate. Each rig can drill 80 wells that help 40,000 people each year. And 6 months after we hit our goal, you'll be able to see the rig on the ground and track it for years to come. The water problem is big, but it can be solved. And after 5 years of work, now more than ever, we are determined to bring clean and safe drinking water to every single person on the planet. Join us.
What did you see? Hope? People? Did anybody see passion? Inspiration? Did anybody feel a story really well told? This is a 15, 20 person nonprofit. They did that video in-house. And they've already raised what they were trying to do in less than a month. Less than a month. That video has had 2 million views on YouTube. And they didn't do anything you can't. What you have to do is you have to start thinking differently, because social market leadership are examples like that video and Sermo, who, I know this will come as a complete shock to you, who figured out, a whole bunch of doctors got together and they figured out they don't know it all. And they've created the largest online community of physicians who do nothing but share ideas and diagnostics and best practices. And guess what? There's a whole lot of pharmaceutical companies who are very interested in understanding what those doctors talk about. These are examples of what I call social market leadership. And social market leadership is about having a purpose, not just being online. Why are you online? Not just having a defensive strategy, which somebody trashes your brand. Somebody says something bad about Yamaha or Kawasaki or any of the other ones, Honda included. If you don't respond, you're sending out two signals. Either we don't get it or we're incompetent. Last time I checked, neither one of those are really that flattering. So you have to have a defensive strategy on how to protect your brand, but you also have to have an offensive one of how do we take our message, our value to the market. Because unless you tell me otherwise, the US market is still very much motorcycling is recreation versus Europe or Asia Pacific or other markets. That is fundamentally transportation. And unless we start thinking about that, how are you going to shift? How are you going to grow this market? Because listen, I appreciate Jerry's comment that oil prices are going up and the new Honda bike with the 70 mile an hour, I get all that. That's great. But if that's the only thing you're counting on, you're hitting a very small sliver of the market. So we got to start thinking about social market leadership. And what I want you to talk about, and what I want you to think about, I want you to really take away is social is more than just doing. And many of you are doing. I talked to Sarah. I talked about, oh yeah, we're on Twitter and we're doing some Facebook and our people are on LinkedIn. And all that is transactional and it's activity-based and it's important, but it's doing. I want you to start thinking about how do we become a socially enabled industry? How do we become a socially enabled value chain? How do we become a socially enabled industry and organization? So that's where the return on impact came from. By the way, this isn't intended to overwhelm anybody, but this is the state of current social marketing footprint. And what I want you to, just one thing to think about. I don't know if you can see it. Traditional publishers, Wall Street Journal, AOL, New York Times, yet but a small box in this corner. I have clients who are using social marketing management, social intelligence to understand what conversations are being had where, and where should you be part of that conversation, if not lead it. Social brand engagement, analytics, social scoring. Do you need all of these? No. Do you need to know what they all are? No. Can you bury your head in sand and still think of Facebook as some place to keep up with your teenage daughter? Sure. How long are you going to remain relevant? So social market leadership is all about aligning, first and foremost, the business goals. Clients call me. We got to get more active on Facebook. Why? Everybody else is doing it. Sorry, not good enough. You got to start with the business goals. What are the fundamental business goals? Who are you trying to engage? Personally or professionally, you cannot date everybody. So who are you trying to date? Who are you trying to engage? What kind of relationship are you trying to build with them? Let's figure that out. Then let's figure out what the strategy should be. And by the way, any strategic conversation that starts with tools is the tail wagging the dog. The strategy is, how will your business look differently by 2020? What will the dealer network look like by 2020? Some believe this kind of, the ones that have gone by the wayside is actually healthy, because the ones that have kind of stuck around hopefully have gotten smarter. What would they look like in 2020? When I'm in the aftermarkets business and my top 20 accounts, none of them are brick and mortar, that should scream, right? A very different consumer preference, consumer behavior, consumer taste. And by the way, Eric loves saying this, and I agree. The dealerships, and those are not really convenient. It's not like me going to the mall and I'm going to talk about the Apple store. I've got to go way out of my way to almost like an industrial part of town to go find this dealership. And I went looking for 3 who still had a web presence and who still were in the directory, but I get there and it's an empty building. So in writing this most recent one, and as Tim mentioned, you'll get a copy of it. I start writing books by asking a whole lot of questions, right? Questions like, what's the impact on social on teams and organizations? Because you can't make some of this stuff up. I was walking through one of my client hallways and I heard somebody say, email, that's so 1990s. They think very differently. They learn very differently. They build relationships. The next generation, the millennials that Tim talked about, come to work very differently than we have in the past, right? How do visionary leaders really lead differently because of social? What about the talent gap? I got to tell you a couple of quick stories. You saw pictures of my good-looking kids. One of them is in the 5th grade. The other one's in the 3rd grade. So you just started in this about a month or 2 ago. Last May, we're called to my kid's school. And we go for a teacher-parent conference. I'm like, what did the boy do now? We show up, and it's actually my daughter's teacher. And this 23-year-old had been to a technology conference for teachers. And she came back, and she convinced the school, 5th grade, this year, they've entirely done away with textbooks. And they've issued iPads to every 5th grader. Now, one of the parents says, well, what about cursive? So the teacher showed them how to use an app for cursive. That day, I went to Apple Store, bought both of them iPads. As you can imagine, at 10, they figured out how to use the iPads in about 15 minutes. That afternoon, my son is standing in front of our microwave, and he does this. I'm like, son, not yet, right? Probably the next version your mother's going to make me buy. But this is so intuitive to him that he's really perplexed. Why doesn't it work this way? And I have to buy some kludgy clip to forget my iPad, my phone on my bike, and I gotta buy a proprietary communication system to have it installed in my house. What? So the talent that's coming to work thinks very differently. And as a manufacturer or an aftermarket, you got to start thinking, you start anticipating kind of where they're going, right? What's the economic value add of internal and external networks? What's the value of failure? I don't know about you, ever since I was a kid, it was driven into me, failure's bad. I would submit we can learn as much, if not more, when things don't go well. I've replayed my wipeout in my head probably 50 times. What did I do? I went into that turn too fast. I grabbed my brakes too hard, starts locking up, the bike's doing this. Next thing I know, I'm into the guardrail. And I hit gravel, and I'm down. Thank God there wasn't a car coming the other direction. But we learn as much when things don't go well. And we learn how to anticipate kind of the next set of opportunities, right? And what does socially enabled innovation look like? How do we really start thinking differently about our respective businesses, right? And when I found out, by the way, I interviewed 100 corporate executives, 100 association executives. I came and spent some time with Tim and his team. And what I found out was really this stair-step model that said, their thinking, the approach, the investment, and really the growth opportunities are predicated by some are still doing nothing. And by the way, blocking access, I don't think that's the answer. There's a bank that will go unnamed in Atlanta who spent $60 million developing a payment application for Facebook. But they block access to Facebook from their offices. So you know what employees do? They go to the lobby where there's a Panera Bread, and that's how they get online. Or they bring their personal devices, or they bring, smartphones and tablets, and that's how they get online. I don't think blocking is the answer. Some are very reactive. We want to get more active on Facebook. Why? We don't know. Everybody's doing it. You can't ignore a billion people. Yeah, but how many are in your market or relevant to you? So that side is very transactional. It's transactional approach, is transactional thinking. There is a proverbial crossing the chasm. And that is really thinking more strategically. Because if you can cross that chasm, you start to become more proactive. You start to become more predictive. You start to become more intuitive and ideally visionary in the transformational thinking. And how do we engage this audience very differently? How do we learn from their comments? How do we identify market opportunities? So, and by the way, my experience, very difficult for a lot of large companies to innovate. This guy rides a whole lot of miles, 700,000 miles, by himself, crashes. He's unconscious, he's bleeding, and he's got broken bones. 100 feet away from a house. Nobody knows he's there on some back country road. So what he's developed is this crash alert system that if you wipe out, this thing starts beeping horns and lights, and a really simple idea, but a brilliant one. And he's leveraging social to get the word out. And he's having his customers talk about this thing. I went in a ditch and this thing saved me. Now, I have no vested interest, but in that, what I'm just telling you is you got to start thinking differently. There are four disruptors, four fundamental disruptors in our market today. Social is one. The physical web is another one. Digital sensors. Show of hands. How many people know what QR codes are? Great. Love it, right? First time we can use our mobile devices for input, and now we've gone from dumb touch points, ads, right? How many people saw that ad? To smart ones, because I can track where they went, what they did, how they did it there. We're starting to see smart. Why not use QR codes on back of your business cards? Why not use them? One of our clients uses them on their office nameplates. You can walk by my office and see my name is John Smith, or you can scan my QR code and see a video of me interacting with my family this past weekend. Right? Pervasive memory. Did you know Facebook backs up its servers every 8 seconds? My counsel to you is if you don't want it found, don't put it online. And things that people put online have this pervasive memory, right? So 10 ideas in the Return Impact book. Let me just real quickly go through them. Number one, you have to put customers at the center of all that you do, all that you're about, every dollar you spend, anything you call R&D. Because if the customers aren't at the center, I'm not sure what it is that you're doing. April of 2010. Steve Jobs announces not a new product, but a new category. Nobody thought we needed something between smartphones and laptops. But the tablet market has taken off as a new category. Why? He thought about what his customers would want to do. And he anticipated the fact that we'd want to sit on our couch and look at things online. You need a social strategy. And a social strategy is more than the tools. It's let's start thinking about the business and the future of the business. You got to think about world-class engagements. A show of hands, how many of you ever stayed at a Ritz-Carlton or a Four Seasons hotel? Have you ever asked for directions? What do? They take you there, right? First time this happened to me, I'm like, dude, I'm not 4 years old. Just tell me where the bathroom is, right? But they get that it doesn't get to be any more of a commodity than a hotel room. So what they want to do is they don't want you to get frustrated by getting lost in the, looking for the bathroom or the meeting room. So they'll physically take you there. I've never had that happen to me at Courtyard. And when I check into Ritz-Carlton, I get a voicemail that says, the ladies and gentlemen of Ritz-Carlton Naples want to welcome you to our property. My name is Jennifer at this extension. If there's anything we can do, please call us. I use a Mac. And I showed up at a presentation. I'd forgotten my dongle to attach to the system. Their concierge takes a car, goes to a local Apple store, buys me an adapter and brings it back. That's a very different level of service. Anytime I go there, that's where I stay, even if it's out of my own pocket, especially if it's out of my own pocket, because of that experience. By the way, did you know they're owned by the same company? Yeah, Marriott, who understands different clientele, different capabilities, different engagement, right? Building a different kind of organization. customer-centric is going to force you to get away from your silos, right? Bob was kind of to talk about, he's got a whole field force that handles all these dealers. Let me tell you about not one of Bob's, but one of those experiences. I'm at a dealer, and I'm talking to the guy. Here comes one of the manufacturer's reps with his shirt and his logo on. The two of them behind the counter start chit-chatting and completely forget about me. I feel like I'm having one of these out-of-body experiences. Newsflash, the only reason the two of you have jobs are people like me. So, what is your field team, if you have a field team, doing to engage people on the other side of the counter, not just the guys that are behind it? Itunify capabilities. We're going to talk more about this in a second. Social talent. We talked about really thinking and attracting different type of talent. Every summer, I work with about 10 universities, and every summer we get about 400 resumes. By the way, I don't know a business that doesn't need fresh infusion of talent, fresh thinking, fresh perspective. This past summer, we brought in a young lady named Katie from Emory University in Atlanta. At 19, she's more mature than a lot of 30-year-olds I know. First, we all use 21-inch screens. First day on the job, she says, could she have another one? Now I'm really confused. I'm like, we're not stockbrokers. Why does she need that much digital desktop, right? Like, no problem. Adam can get you one. A couple of days later, I'm walking by Katie's desk, and she's got multiple social networks up. She has 2 smart devices. She has 2 tablets. 2 smartphones, 2 tablets. It'd be very easy to walk by Katie's desk and say she's playing. So I said, I'm going to test this. I asked Katie to do a macro in Excel that she clearly didn't know how to do. What would the rest of us do, right? Get frustrated, go walk down the office and try to find somebody, go, right? Katie starts texting and tweeting a whole bunch of friends. Within about 3 minutes, she has 10 to 12 answers. Somebody has recorded a 30-second video of go here, click here, do this, do this. Katie got more done in 2 months with us than other people do in 6. Because Katie does things differently. Now, here's the challenge. They're very good at this. They're very bad at this. They're very bad at, again, I'm making sweeping generalization, but looking you in the eye and articulating what they're working on and how that makes a difference and engaging you as a person. So I believe they're reciprocal mentoring opportunities, right? Take them, show them, teach them how to build relationships, have them, and we do this with clients. We do something called reverse mentoring. We take these 20-some-year-olds, we clean them up, and we take them upstairs to show board members and senior executives what they're doing on Pinterest and what they're doing with mobile devices, right? Socially enabling your execution, analytics, social and mobile generate a ton of data, so learning from those goes a long way. Failing intently, and then really reinventing ROI. Return on impact, return on integration, return on involvement, return on influence. Not just clever eye terms, but soft assets that every organization has that doesn't really leverage that well. And I know several of you are taking notes. I'll also share the copy of the presentation with you. I should have said that earlier, but I'll send you the stuff. So I just want you to be here. So customers as members. I don't know about you, but I've seen a whole lot of ads lately where insurance companies talk about their members. And again, not to be cliche-ish, but membership really does have its privileges, right? That company's been calling its customers members for a really long time. Member sense. And we got to stop putting people in these buckets, and we got to start thinking about this web of relationships, right? And by the way, your competencies, the things that you do and how you do it, that's all input. The output is really the value. The output is what's delivered. So a lot of you focus on the input, but you don't realize the output is what matters, right? So educating the market, engaging the market, that all is output to how are they better off because of you, right? Developing world-class engagement, you know this. If you engage people, if you educate them, it's repeat business. If I know about Sarah's helmets, I'm gonna need $5 for this plug later. If I know about Sarah's helmets, right, I'm much more likely to go and either look for a dealer because she's got a very focused kind of market and right caters to the affluent, than I am trying to buy any that comes across my plate. So if you educate me, if you engage me, I become that repeat business. And what I've identified is that the different levels of familiarity with brands, right? Some we just outright reject. Sorry, I don't have white hair braided back to my lower back, and I'm I'm not a Harley guy. I tried. It's not me. It's not me. Right? Some we just don't recognize. There's a lot of brands. Eric was kind enough to send me a couple of the catalogs, and I went through and I felt like it's the JCPenney catalog right before Christmas, right? I'm like, is it wrong of me that I've earmarked every page? But there are a lot of brands I don't recognize. Some, they're very neutral. We have some association with them, but really don't know anything about them. Some, we build a preference for. Others, we build an insistence on. My counsel to my clients is build preferences for your technical expertise, build insistence for the manner in which you build relationships, build insistence in the manner in which you engage and influence people. Because I can find other technically competent teams and products and services. I can't find people who build relationships like you do. And ensure this happens with your teams. This is CEO of a company tweeting, if we ever fail to impress, please let us know. Because make no mistake about it, this day and age, in 2012 and beyond, when we have a bad experience, we don't tell one or two people. We tell thousands who follow us on Twitter and look at our Facebook walls. If we ever fail to impress, please let us know. So I told you earlier, I got this brochure from them, right? And you know, I think they have an opportunity to follow up, right? So they send me stuff in the mail, but I haven't heard from anybody. So my counsel to you is get in the follow-through business, not follow-up business. Follow-up is a transaction. Follow-through is a process. Figure out how to follow through with people. Did you get our catalog? Was any of them really impress you? Did you read on the back of it, which, by the way, we also got the full court press on this when we walked into the dealership. Did you read that we have garage parties when we invite women and, right, to events? Did you know that we have Rider's Edge to come and learn how to ride a Harley? Somebody was talking about at the shows, they lay a Harley down, right, and they have this 100-pound woman showing you how to lift it. And anytime they do that, there's what, 200-300 people just watching? So get in the business of following through, right? It's a process, not follow-up, which is transaction. Progressive. And again, this is not advocating any one individual. They're sending me emails about discount tickets to the upcoming motorcycle show that's coming to my town. Think about it. Not only they know where I am, but they know that I've got 3 bikes insured with them. They know this event is coming up. They're probably a sponsor. Where's Larry? Right? Get these guys on board or somebody like that, right? Because there's your insurance company sending you emails and texts with coupons for motorcycle shows? That's thinking differently. Apple Store. How many of you been in Apple Store lately? Let's say last 3 months. Genius Bar? Have you been to a Genius Bar? Let me show you. Let me share with you. Have you seen this? It's an experience. Have you seen this? Again, Eric was kind enough to share this with me. Fiat is putting stores in malls. I don't think anybody's going to buy one and drive away with it. But guess who I go to mall with? The wife and the kids. And it's a cool, and they gave us a little plush Fiat 500. And last time I'm in Italy, take a wild guess of what I rented. And it's cute, and it's zippy, and it's fun, and it's on and on and on. They understand that they're in the experience business. Compare and contrast that to when I go into your dealers. So the impact model in the book says, put the customers at the center, educate them. Educate the broader market of your value add and the value reception. Engage them. Engage them in dialogue. That's what social is a great opportunity for. And by the way, empower them. Empower them to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Whoa. Did you say ugly? Yes. Because if you don't screw up, you're not human. If you don't make mistakes, you're not human. But when you let people share those, and it's not that you made a mistake, it's what you chose to do about it. Listen, I apologize you had a bad experience with that brand. Please send us that product back. We'll replace it, no issues. Well, show of hands, have you ever bought anything from LL Bean? Have you ever had a problem with one? You send it back to them? What'd you get? A brand new product. We just sent the bag that we bought I think 6 years ago. Why? It ripped in the corner. And they send you a new one. No question. And I'm not trying, and we don't abuse the system. That's not what I'm saying. But they believe that experience more than just cost of a bag. I worked with Disney for a number of years. The Walt Disney World Company unequivocally understands the lifetime value of a customer. You ready for this? A family of 4 will spend $50,000 in their lifetime with the Walt Disney World Company. So they've empowered frontline managers up to $2,500 if a customer has an issue, get it resolved. Because making me upset over $2,500 is not worth throwing away 50 grand. And make no mistake about it, customers always have a choice. And they vote with their wallets. So that dealer who laughed at me about replacing a mirror, you know how much gear I've bought since then? Every experience matters. And the impact actually stands for immerse them. Let them see value of becoming a part of this community. What does it mean to be a motorcycle enthusiast? Start creating participation in blogs and forums and join clubs. I belong to a couple of clubs now, riding clubs now, right? Show them value in accreditation. Again, MSF has a huge opportunity here. I actually carry my card. Why not give me stickers to put on my bike or my helmet or be a patch to really show that I believe in safety? I have a lot of people are anti-bumper stickers. I have a bumper sticker that says, "Look out for us, please." Build that community and transform their lives. And by the way, build smart touch points along the way that you can learn from. So let me keep moving. The industry's got to get smart. What do I mean? I have to tell you my story. I've been dying to tell you my story. My wife and kids bought me a little 49cc scooter for Father's Day 2 years ago. If you've ever been on one of these things, you gotta push to go uphill, like Flintstones. Like, I'm coming. People are at stop signs and they're on hogs. I'm on a piglet, okay? It was embarrassing, but it was cute. It was yellow. Here I am in sport coats going to coffee meetings and a little yellow cute scooter. So I finally convinced the wife, man, you got to let me get something bigger. I come out, that's what I'm saying, it's all Tim's fault. I come out to the MIC office and there are these gorgeous Hondas sitting right there. They owe me money, right? So it's there, and I like, Tim, what are these? And they're like, they gave us those and we're auctioning them for foundation. I'm very cool. I'm like, I'll take one. Then, and I apologize, excuse my expression, I'm like, shit, how am I going to tell my wife? How am I going to tell Wendy? And by the way, Tim, I don't have any of the gear and I don't know how to ride a bike. Don't worry about it. We'll get you the gear and we're going to send you to training. Beautiful. Love it. I'm in. I've taken now several classes at MSF. We, of course, had to upgrade the scooter. So now I have a 150S scooter, which the kids love. Ton of fun. And I go back for other MSF courses, and guess what? My Honda is an automatic, right? So they use CBR 250s, and they're like clutch and kind of cool and a little more zippy and nice, and I got to work on hand-eye shift coordination, right? So I start looking at Panigale, right? And you got to see the dealer guy's face. I'm like, I just started riding. What do you think about this bike? He wants to tell me, you're going to kill yourself on that bike, but he doesn't. Yeah, it could be a little, challenging for you. We're building a sidecar. I found a buddy, and we're building a hack for the scooter. So I'm bending steel, and I'm buying parts, and we're welding, and we're doing stuff I haven't done since high school shop. Back of his garage is a Ducati 999. I'm like, what's that? It's like, it's a 999. I'm like, I'll take it. Then I'm like, shit. How am I going to tell Wendy, right? So I bring this home. And I don't know if you can see it from there. It's a buddy's garage. He lives on 5 acres. Back of his garage, personal, right? 30 by 50, 24 Ducatis in that garage. He's got 4 lifts, right? He works on them. He races them. I mean, I am in a toy store. This guy's place is so cool. I want to just go hang out with the guy. We're having a bromance. That's what mine looks like now. And I've gotten now 28 CEOs who are clients and friends, and we work out together, and we go on monthly rides. And I'm telling you, it's so cool because you start talking to people, and people I've known for years. We've never talked about motorcycles. So as Tim mentioned, I don't want to just get better at riding. I also want to know how these things work. So I've gone to a whole bunch of shops and I said, listen, I've got a full-time job. Can I just come hang out with you on Saturdays? I'll change the oil pans. I'll mop the place. Just let me learn. Well, no. You're a liability. You don't know what you're doing. Insurance issues, right? We have track days. Why don't we have tech days? So I found that one of them said there's a local technical school and they have a diploma. Now, mind you, I already have 2-3 pieces of paper, right? I called the guy and it's like, can I just come and learn the classes? No, you have to enroll in class. So now Mondays and Wednesdays, 5:30 to 9:30 at night, I go to a class where we took tires off of the rim. And we just took a Yamaha and we completely stripped it down to the frame. And I'm having a ton of fun. And by the way, did I tell you I'm looking into lifts for a garage I'm building? And I bought a dealer shop that I'm shipping from Ohio to my house to put in this garage that I don't have yet. And now I'm looking at a couple of other bigger, more expensive ones. And we've gone from a scooter to this. And I have to tell you, there's a downside because there's a really sweet, beautiful woman at my house who's just completely turned evil. There are lasers coming out of this woman's eyes because she doesn't understand. She called it a hobby. And I said, honey, stamp collecting is a hobby. I'm passionate about this. And because I don't build anything in my work, I'm passionate about this. But she's rightfully nervous about not just even me, but other people that are out there. And this isn't about me. I'm just trying to tell you, I'm a poster child of people I believe you have to recruit. You have to attract. Not by being insular, not by belittling me when I go into your dealership, but by engaging me and educating me and really empowering me to share these experiences. So that's an example of segmenting your customers in different stages of a life cycle that they go through, right? What I needed when I had the scooter is very different now that I've got 3 bikes and I'm looking at 2 more. So in each stage, you have to start aligning your value and you have to start delineating what each member of that stage needs. I would submit by need, by your capabilities, and by how to engage them, right? So in one stage, I have very different needs and I have very different, and you have different capabilities, right? And you have to, again, overlay social and mobile to really engage me at that point, right? Now, some of you are, and a customer-centric go-to-market strategy says, take that segment, and this is examples of the consulting work that we're doing, really build your capabilities around that segment, and then your go-to-market, right? So instead of treating one size fits all, whether you're an aftermarket or anybody in this room, start identifying your market segments and how do we go to market to engage them very differently, right? Now, some of you are doing what I call geocentric segmentation. Basically, what you've done is you've taken a map and said, here's our dealers, and by the way, these products sell really well here, and those sell really well there, and it's a good start. But if it's product-centric, you're missing the point. This has to be based on need. What is it that they need? How do you align those capabilities? And then what is your more go-to-market resources to help you get there? So to remain relevant, you have to understand that people who get online and search, only 20% of them know exactly what they're looking for. Let me start with your models, right? It's alphabet soup. I don't know the difference between one and the other. Very few people are getting there and searching the model numbers. What they're searching for is, I'm looking for a heavy bike. I'm looking for the best snowmobiles in this type of a climate. And that stuff isn't on your website. You know where there are blogs and forums. So you have to understand how to engage them emotionally and conversations that speaks their language, not yours. This is a customer's view of connected world. We're going to talk more about this in the workshop, but think about it. I want to identify anything in the world on my digital device. Is your website mobilely enabled? Not can I bring up your website on a mobile device. Is it mobilely enabled? Because I do things very differently on my Delta Airlines mobile app than I do on my desktop. By the way, Google just announced more searches are being done on mobile devices than there are desktops. Is your website mobilely enabled? I want to differentiate my options based on my current preferences, current tastes. I want to interact with people, objects, others. I want to see other people's experiences. Listen, people who are buying your stuff are used to buying from eBay and Angie's List and other places where they can see that dialogue in real time with the product. Are you creating that on your website? And I want you to customize my next interaction based on this one. So if you make me fill out a whole bunch of paperwork, don't make me do it again. And again, I'm a big believer that we're products of the advice we take. An old CEO drove this into me. Remember information for people, not about them. Remember information for people, not about them. For people is for their benefit. About them is for yours. Right? So I get online and I search the best leather jackets. These guys come up. Not even the manufacturer, right? This website comes up. And by the way, they're really smart because they got a whole lot of videos that tell me about it. Educate your market. They show me differentiation between different ones. Here's the different ones with the pricing. And I love this. Doesn't fit. As long as you haven't used it, send it back. No questions, no issues. Make it easy. Lead me down the path I'm dying to go, which is to buy from you. And you could give me all kinds of text till you're blue in the face. Video is engaging. Video is informative. Video takes me there. So what you have to start understanding is not just demographics, but psychographics. And again, we'll talk more about this afternoon. What people say online, what they do online, speaks volumes about their preferences. And all middle-aged white guys don't buy the same way online, right? So you can't just demographically put me in a bucket. You have to psychographically understand what is it that I buy, how I buy it, right? So smart. Segment. Segment your customer base, your end consumers based on their needs. Modularize your capabilities. Not all your dealers need all that you bring. Not all end consumers need everything you bring. Start modularizing your capabilities based on those needs. Anticipate. I told you my life cycle. Right now I'm buying a couple other bikes. What will I need next? What haven't I thought about? By the way, I've got an angry wife at home. What can I do to help her feel more comfortable? So I'm buying body armor for me and the kids. And I just bought this really cool vest that has a capsule in it with a cord that attaches to the bike that notices if I'm ejected, the whole thing blows up into a life vest and right? Airbags. How cool is that? So I forwarded their video. Honey? Right? And I feel like Kofi Annan at UN. I'm negotiating and I'm like positioning and posturing, right? But that anticipate what is it that I'll need in my growth as an enthusiast, right? Reward. Reward employees for win-win, not we win. I'm trying to sell one of the bikes I have now to make room in the garage for other things, right? I go into a used dealer. That was a horrible experience. The guy's just there to pull a fast one, right? I've done my homework. I've got my iPad with me. He's lowballing the trade and on and upping his and right? Reward employees for win-win, not we win. I'm a really excited enthusiast, if you can't tell. Take care of me and I'll buy more than one bike from you. But that dealer doesn't have the business acumen. They need to be trained. They need to be elevated. This isn't the way they sold bikes 20 years ago. You're dealing with a different clientele. And last but not least, transform those touch points from dumb, and a lot of them are dumb today, to smart. How can you learn from every interaction, right? QR codes, I give you one example. RFID is another one. There's a lot of really great ways to learn and really engage people when they buy aftermarkets or otherwise, whatever they buy from you, right? Again, we'll talk more about this afternoon. So if this is what I'm attracted to, this just isn't going to cut it. Nothing against this one, but it isn't me. And your messaging, your positioning with this one, and now I subscribe to a whole bunch of them, doesn't resonate with me because you don't understand the anatomy of an affluent male. And again, Eric was kind enough to share this. You have to understand where I'm coming from. You have to understand what makes me tick. Miles per gallon really isn't it for me. Now, maybe for a lot of people, but it isn't for me. I am so glad that the Magnum PI look went out years ago, right? What is this all about? I mean, I'm so glad you changed. I didn't realize it was 50 years ago, but ooh. But what I'm telling Larry's of the world is that if you want that expo next year to really succeed, you have to get really smart at consumer trends. You have to understand what re-commerce is really about. If you haven't done this, do this. Go to Patagonia and order one of their catalogs. You know what this is? It doesn't show up like, here's the picture of the shirt or a jacket. It looks like a magazine. And there's stories of all their employees who go on these amazing trips wearing their gear. And by reading the story, you want that gear. Let me show you one example. Re-commerce. Right? Re-commerce. Right here, number 10, re-commerce. What I want is a hole in the wall to hang a painting. What I need is a drill to hold the wall, to drill the hole in the wall to hang the painting. What happens with that drill after that hole? Sits in my garage or sits in my basement, right? It's an underutilized asset. There are all kinds of websites now popping up saying, you know what, you may know your next door neighbor, but you don't know the neighbor 4 houses down who needs the same hole. Either lend your drill to them for a fee or sell it at a discount. So now you're not sitting on an underutilized asset, and they don't have to go buy a brand new one. Patagonia and eBay just did a campaign, and they drove something like $40 million of re-commerce. Patagonia certified that it was in fact a legit, not a counterfeit. eBay sold it, and people who otherwise couldn't afford that brand get a chance to buy that brand at a lesser price because it was sitting in somebody else's closet collecting dust. Re-commerce is a fundamental consumer trend that if you want to be successful at that event, or if you want to go after a new market, you have to understand what these things are and how they apply to your world. So his brilliance wasn't just the devices, it was the ecosystem. Fastest growing part of iTunes is iTunes University, where hundreds of organizations have put up courses online. I wonder what has to happen for us to get MSF information up there, or your technical manuals. I've got one for my bike. It's this thick. Are you kidding me? I'm just trying to figure out how to remove the grip and put a foam one on so it doesn't vibrate my hand so it's so numb. By the way, I installed vibrators in my end of my handlebar. Oh yeah, it's smooth now, baby. But there's nothing worse than a super bike to just go 6th gear for a really long time. So start thinking differently. Not just the app, but your involvement, your engagement with people on, you got to go where they are. You want to attract a new market, you have to go where they are, right? And we talked about advocacy marketing. We'll talk more about it. Mobile, real quickly. There's a ton of growth opportunities in mobile, but you have constraints, right? I don't have the full size. You got to think differently about how to use them. But I don't know about you. My little dinky local bank just came out with a mobile app where I can take pictures of my checks, and I don't remember the last time I went to a local branch, because now I can take a picture of it, and that's how I can deposit the money, right? So think about, and you're still making me go to a dealer that's way over there. How else can I interact with your brand online? So we're going to talk more about this afternoon, but I've come up with what I call 10 impact moments that really matter and how to start engaging that audience very differently. We've also built a scorecard to not just do all this, but really figure out, are you searchable, are you credible, are you sharing great information with people? And what in my consulting work, every organization evolves differently, regardless of your size. There's a very logical crawl, walk, run. And it's silly to talk about the run stuff if you're not doing the crawl stuff. And I'm being respectful. I've checked out some of your websites from the directory, and you're not doing the crawl stuff. So I'm talking to Tim about potentially doing either webinars or other ways. Workshop will be a good way to do this, but getting ways for you to start elevate your thinking in terms of some of these ideas. That's the website. 5 ways to learn more. Read the book. Less than 5% of Americans read more than one business book a year. My dad drove into us that leaders are readers and readers are leaders. Read the book. A friend has trademarked what he calls the 1% rule. Improve by 1% a day, and in 70 days, you're twice as good. Mathematically proven. Improve by 1% a day, and in 70 days, you're twice as good. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. I'm learning how to ride better. I'm learning how to work on my bike. What's my 1% for today? That's all you have to ask. There's a monthly newsletter. By the way, most people unsubscribe from newsletters because they're way too promotional. I recently wrote an article, What Happens When It's Broken at the Top? I had 6 clients mad at me because they thought I wrote about them. So the next month I wrote How to Fix Damaged Relationships. Right? But when you create content that they can relate to, you'll create gravity. You'll create pull. Right? So there's a newsletter. There's a group on LinkedIn if you're active on LinkedIn. And if you saw that, I like to rave and rant on Twitter. So if you like these ideas, you can follow me on Twitter. So there's we also put on all kinds of webinars. I like sharing ideas, and in 13 we're launching a new one. Let me share last couple of minutes. One last video. I spoke at a manufacturing, oddly enough, event. A bunch of executives in Munich, and one of the other speakers was a futurist from Intel. This guy has 400 people on his staff, and all they do is look at not extrapolate, not forecast, but look at what we do and how we do it today. And they start coming up with their perceptions of how we're going to use technology moving forward. One of Intel's strategic partners is Corning, the glass people. So Corning has created this video that he shared that I just thought might be useful to you. What I want you to watch is not just interesting, not charity water, just interesting, but how will some of these technologies, particularly user interface, change the way we build products, changes our perception of R&D, changes the way we go to market. So watch this, and then we'll wrap up. think you get the sense of where that's going. By the way, if you think that's way in the future, he actually brought a piece with him. It was film that he rolled up. He rolls it out, puts his smartphone in the corner, and this piece of folded film becomes his desktop. And he starts to interact. This thing is live. It starts to interact with it. They're anticipating 2015, 2016. And he rolled it back up, put it in a tube, and puts it in his briefcase. How will that change the way you want to interact, you want to engage with others? Saw this and it really spoke to me, is that I'm spending money in your industry because of this passion, not the other way around. What are you doing to speak to that passion? And I saw this in one of my client hallways. It says, experience is a hard teacher. She gives us the test first, the lessons afterwards. Social and mobile are testing you. Will you remain relevant? Will you start thinking very differently about your business? Thanks for having me.
Well, we haven't got much, but I do have a QR code on the MSF news piece that's in your folder. And interesting, I've never seen Apple kind of goof, but they approved MSF at iTunes University and then determined that what we were doing there, which they had approved, wasn't quite right. So we are in the process of doing 16 courses at iTunes University. And more importantly, or as importantly, we're interested in the collections because we've got Dr. Ray Oakes and Dr. Sherry Grims and Dr. Jim Heidemann and a professional staff with the best training program in the world. It's a well-kept secret. Half today's writers have been trained. Therein lies the opportunity and so much more to follow. So we've not got much, but we've got desire and we certainly have the need. David, you're amazing. I can't wait till you kick our butts in a workshop this afternoon.